January 5th, 2024. Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 climbing out of Portland. Everything seems normal until, boom! A door plug blows out at 16,000 feet. A gaping hole opens in the side of the fuselage. Passengers' phones are sucked out into the night sky. Miraculously, no one dies. By the next day, 171 Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft are sitting on the ground, grounded, declared unsafe, forbidden to fly. So what actually happens when aviation authorities declare an aircraft type unsafe? What's the process? Who makes the decision? And how do planes get back in the air? The answer is more complex and more dramatic than most people realize. The Emergency Airworthiness Directive, aviation's nuclear option. When the FAA declares a plane unsafe, they issue an Emergency Airworthiness Directive, AD. This is aviation's nuclear option, the regulatory equivalent of pulling the fire alarm mid-concert. An EAD is only issued when an unsafe condition exists that requires immediate action by an owner's operator. These planes cannot fly another minute until fixed. Within hours of the Alaska Airlines door plug incident, the FAA issued EAD 2020-40151. Every Boeing 737, 9 MAX with a door plug was immediately grounded. No exceptions. United had 79 of these planes. Alaska had 65. They all stopped flying. Instantly. Over 160 flights canceled. 23,000 passengers stranded. Airlines lost millions daily. But here's the thing. The FAA doesn't issue EADs lightly. They're relatively rare. The decision involves a cascade of actions, investigations, and political pressure most passengers never see. How the decision actually gets made. When something catastrophic happens, like a door blowing off mid-flight or two identical planes crashing within 5 months, the machinery of aviation safety kicks into overdrive. Here's the typical sequence. Step 1. The incident. Something goes wrong. A crash, a structural failure, a near miss that could have been catastrophic. Step 2. Immediate investigation. The NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, launches an investigation. They examine wreckage, interview witnesses, analyze flight data recorders. Step 3. Pattern recognition. Investigators look for similarities with other incidents. Is this a one-time failure, or is there a systemic problem? Step 4. International coordination. The FAA communicates with aviation authorities worldwide. The EU, Canada, Australia, China, everyone compares notes. Step 5. Political and public pressure. This is where things get messy. Airlines, pilot unions, flight attendant unions, Congress, and the traveling public all weigh in. Step 6. The grounding decision. The FAA administrator makes the call. Issue an EAD, ground the fleet, or don't. This process can take hours, days, or weeks depending on the severity and clarity of the threat. The Boeing 737 MAX, a case study in delay. The Boeing 737 MAX grounding is the most infamous example of what happens when this process goes wrong. October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a 737 MAX 8, crashes into the Java Sea. All 189 people aboard die. March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, also a 737 MAX 8, crashes shortly after takeoff. All 157 people die. 2 crashes. Same aircraft type, same suspicious flight patterns, same apparent cause, a malfunctioning safety system called MCAS that pushed the plane's nose down despite pilots' frantic efforts. So the FAA immediately grounded all 737 MAX aircraft, right? Wrong. China grounded the planes within 48 hours. The EU, UK, Australia, and dozens of other countries followed within 2 days. But the FAA, they waited. On March 12, 2019, 2 days after the Ethiopian crash, Acting FAA Administrator Daniel Elwell said the agency's review shows no systemic performance issues and provides no basis to order grounding the aircraft. The Association of Flight Attendants publicly called for grounding out of an abundance of caution. Pilot unions raised concerns. Congress applied pressure. Finally, on March 13, 2019, 3 days after the crash, the FAA reversed course and grounded all 737 MAX aircraft in U.S. airspace. Why the delay? Politics, economics, the FAA's close relationship with Boeing, and honestly, nobody wants to admit they might have missed a critical safety flaw. The 737 MAX stayed grounded for 20 months. It was the longest commercial aircraft grounding in modern aviation history. What happens during a grounding? When planes get grounded, it's not like they just sit idle. The process of getting them back in the air is exhaustive. Inspections. Every single affected aircraft must be inspected according to FAA-approved procedures. For the 737, 9 MAX door plug issue, inspections took 8 hours per aircraft and involved removing seats, interior panels, and sidewall liners to access the door plugs. Documentation review. Boeing must provide detailed inspection instructions. The FAA reviews every page. If the instructions are inadequate, they get sent back for revision. Test flights. For major design issues like the 737 MAX IMCAS problem, the FAA conducts its own test flights. Administrator Steve Dickson personally flew the 737 MAX before clearing it to return to service. Software updates and hardware modifications. If the problem involves design flaws, manufacturers must develop, test, and certify fixes. This can take months or years. Pilot training requirements. The FAA must approve new training programs. For the 737 MAX, this meant mandatory simulator training, something Boeing initially claimed wasn't necessary. International approval. Even after the FAA clears planes to fly, other countries' aviation authorities must make their own decisions. Europe, Canada, and China all had separate approval processes for the 737 MAX. The human cost. When planes get grounded, passengers get stranded. Families miss weddings and funerals. Business deals fall apart. Airline employees face uncertain futures, layoffs, pay cuts, furloughs. And for crash victims' families, the grounding process becomes part of grieving. Every delay in understanding what went wrong, every political maneuver to protect corporate interests feels like betrayal. The 346 people who died in two 737 MAX crashes didn't die because of some abstract, unsafe condition. They died because a safety system malfunctioned and pilots weren't adequately trained. The grounding process is supposed to prevent the next tragedy, but it can't undo the last one. When a plane is declared unsafe, it triggers a massive regulatory response involving federal agencies, manufacturers, airlines, international authorities, pilot unions, and Congress. Emergency Airworthiness Directives ground aircraft immediately. Inspections can take hours per plane. Design fixes can take years. The political and economic pressures are immense. The FAA has the power to ground entire fleets overnight, and they do when the threat is clear and immediate. But the decision isn't always straightforward. The 737 MAX grounding revealed uncomfortable truths about regulatory capture, political influence, and the tension between safety and economics. Most groundings resolve relatively quickly. The 737, 9 MAX door plug grounding lasted weeks. But the full 737 MAX grounding? 20 months. And every day those planes sit on the ground, someone somewhere is asking, are we being too cautious or not cautious enough? Thanks for watching. Fly safe.